Ferrari just had a test request killed by 5 rival teams. That fact alone tells you everything about the threat Maranello now poses. The Paddock does not unite to block a team unless that team is building something dangerous. Right now, in the garage where the SF-26 lives, engineers are working toward a single deadline, Miami, 3 weeks away, and every decision made in that time will either ignite a championship fight or extinguish Ferrari's best chance to win one. The request was simple, a joint test at Monza, open to every team, using the 5-week gap between Japan and Miami. Ferrari needed real track time to validate a package that changes almost everything on the car, but McLaren, Mercedes, Williams, and Aston Martin said no. Once, the data Ferrari gathered in the simulator pointed to gains of 0.3 per lap with the new floor and rear wing combination. Gains that, if real, would close the 20 brake horsepower deficit to Mercedes. That is why the block happened. Not because of rules, but because of fear. So Ferrari must now prove an entire upgrade philosophy in just 45 laps at Monza on show tires with an FIA-controlled data box limiting what they can learn. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc will share that running, each with roughly 20 laps to feel a car that has never raced. What they report back will decide whether Ferrari brings a revolution or a risk to Miami, and that decision, made in a quiet garage far from the cameras, is where our story truly begins. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc face a choice no driver wants. 1. Trust a car built on simulator data, or question parts that have never seen real track load. Hamilton has built a career on embracing technical risk, pushing engineers to find the edge even when the data is incomplete. Leclerc prefers a calculated approach, needing confidence in the car before committing to the limit. Now, both men must set aside their natural instincts and drive a package that could redefine Ferrari's season or derail it entirely. The sprint format in Miami strips away their safety net. 1 practice session, 60 minutes, to validate upgrades that took months to design. Hamilton's experience with the porpoising crisis in 2022 taught him how to extract performance from an unpredictable car, but that was with a team he knew inside out. Leclerc carried the frustration of the SF-25's inconsistency through 2025. A season where the car's behavior changed from weekend to weekend. Now they share a garage where the margin for error has never been smaller. What no broadcast covered is how those 20 laps each at Monza will be used. Hamilton will focus on energy deployment feel, the way the new software hands power to the wheels under acceleration. Leclerc will probe the Macarena wings transition, listening for any hint of instability when the rear flips between modes. Their feedback will decide whether Ferrari races a revolution or reverts to safety. And that decision, made in the quiet between garage conversations, leads directly to the strategy unfolding at Mercedes. Mercedes holds a lead they never expected to have this early. 135 points in the constructors' standings are with George Russell and Kimi Antonelli delivering wins in all 3 races so far. But the silence from Brackley about Ferrari's Monza request speaks louder than any press conference. Inside the team, engineers were not surprised by the block. They anticipated it, because while Ferrari asked for track time, Mercedes was already building the next answer. What the data actually shows from Suzuka is that Mercedes' advantage was not raw power. It was how the W16 deployed energy through the middle sector, gaining 0.2 where Ferrari lost time under acceleration. George Russell's public comments about managing the development race masked a more aggressive internal timeline, and Kimi Antonelli, in his rookie season, has delivered a calmness under pressure that lets Mercedes take calculated risks Ferrari cannot afford. The 20 brake horsepower gap Ferrari chases is not about peak output. It is about the intelligence of the energy flow. The Mercedes Power Unit alliance with McLaren and Williams creates a network Ferrari cannot access. Shared data on energy recovery patterns, shared learnings on deployment strategies, shared confidence in the hardware's reliability. This is the hidden edge that makes the block against Ferrari's test so effective. And if Mercedes has a counter upgrade ready for Spain that targets the very software changes Ferrari is betting on in Miami, then this entire drama becomes something else entirely, a strategic feint, which brings us to the technical details that will decide who is right. The SF-26 arriving in Miami carries more than new parts. It carries a new philosophy. As every element of the upgrade package connects to every other element in a way Ferrari has never attempted before. The floor redesign targets not just downforce, but reduced sensitivity to ride height changes, critical for a bumpy street circuit. But changing the floor alters the airflow to the rear, which means the Macarena wing must behave perfectly under load, and that is where the risk begins. The Macarena wing version 2 rotates 15% faster than the original, with reshaped profiles designed to maintain downforce during the transition between modes. The Halo winglets return with re-approved materials that meet safety standards for high-speed impacts. Side pod reshaping pushes cleaner air toward the diffuser, gaining rear efficiency without adding drag. Ferrari targeted 4.2 kilograms in weight savings across the package, knowing every kilogram improves tire wear and energy recovery. But the hidden war is fought in code, not carbon fiber. The energy management software rework cannot be validated in a wind tunnel or on a screen. It needs real heat, real load, real braking zones to prove it can balance battery temperature against power deployment against recovery under pressure. Miami's 30 degrees Celsius ambient temperatures and high humidity will test cooling systems designed in simulation but never run in those conditions. If the software drifts from its sweet spot as temperatures climb, the entire package could unravel, and that uncertainty is what drives the political battle behind the scenes. Fred Vasseur put forward a request that followed every rule. Yet it died without a vote, without a hearing, without a public statement. The block happened in private messages between team principals, in conversations that left no paper trail. Ferrari offered equal track time to every team, but equal opportunity does not mean equal benefit. When 5 rivals see one team gaining more from a test than they would, the Paddock's unwritten rules take over, and what happened next reveals how Formula One really makes decisions. The timeline tells the story. Vasseur's formal request arrived on March 28th. Informal soundings began immediately. By April 2nd, pushback had crystallized into a unified position. Toto Wolff never led the opposition publicly, but Mercedes ensured their power unit customers spoke with one voice. Andrea Stella faced a harder choice. McLaren as reigning champions gains little from helping a title rival close a gap. The April 9th commission meeting was set to discuss calendar adjustments, but the test request never reached that agenda. The 2013 Mercedes Pirelli scandal created a lasting distrust that makes teams hypersensitive to any testing exception. But here is what the Paddock is not talking about. Ferrari offered a concession in those private talks, a compromise that still was not enough to sway the opposition. What was that condition, and why did it fail to break the deadlock? The answer matters because it shows whether Ferrari's gamble in Miami is born of desperation or calculation, and that calculation depends entirely on the unique challenges of the Miami circuit itself. Ferrari faces its toughest test on the Miami street circuit, on a track that does not forgive uncertainty. Their upgrades must work where the back straight rewards straight line speed, but the tight corners punish any imbalance. May heat climbs past 30 degrees Celsius with humidity near 80%, conditions that punish cooling systems and tire compounds in ways European circuits never do. The sprint format leaves just one practice session to prove that parts behaving on show tires at Monza will translate to race rubber in South Florida. If the translation fails, Ferrari has almost no time to adapt before qualifying decides their sprint grid position. What no broadcast covered is Pirelli's private data on how the 2026 compounds react to Miami's specific asphalt abrasion. The new floor's downforce gain could increase rear tire core temperatures by 8 degrees Celsius, on a variable that changes grip levels after just 5 laps of hard running. Humidity reduces air density, affecting both aero efficiency and engine combustion, forcing Ferrari's energy software to adapt in real time. The cooling paradox sits at the heart of the risk. Side pod inlets that improve diffuser airflow simultaneously reduce cooling capacity for the energy store. This is the part that changes everything. If the upgrades work in cool morning conditions, but fade as track temperatures rise, Ferrari faces a hit or miss scenario they cannot diagnose in time. The 12% increase in rear tire wear projection means strategic choices become gambles. Hamilton's past Miami results show the circuit rewards the very straight line speed Ferrari is chasing, but also exposes any shortfall in the harshest possible way. And that exposure leads directly to the championship math that will decide whether this gamble was worth the risk. Mercedes leads the Constructors' Championship with 135 points. Ferrari sits second on 90. That 45-point gap defines every decision Maranello makes now. Kimi Antonelli tops the driver's standings with 57 points in his rookie season, while George Russell holds 46. Charles Leclerc has 34, Lewis Hamilton 33. Miami is not just another race. It is the moment Ferrari either closes that gap or watches it widen beyond recovery, and the math behind that moment involves more than just lap times. The cost cap reality forces brutal choices. Ferrari's package-and-a-half approach burns budget that could fund in-season development elsewhere. If the upgrades work, the spend is justified by momentum. If they fail, that budget is gone with nothing to show. The additional development and upgrade opportunity system allows engine makers more than 2% behind to bring extra hardware after race 6. Ferrari's power unit gap clears that bar, but with Bahrain and Saudi Arabia scrapped, does the threshold shift to race 4? The April 9th commission meeting decision could unlock Spanish GP upgrades for Ferrari, or leave them waiting until Canada. But here is what the Paddock is not talking about. McLaren, 44 points behind Ferrari, is also upgrading for Miami. Lando Norris and the reigning champions could close the gap from behind just as Ferrari challenges Mercedes from ahead. Hamilton at 33 points needs consistent podiums to stay in the title fight. Does the risky package align with his championship strategy, or does it gamble short-term gain for long-term pain? The answer depends on what Ferrari learns in those limited Monza laps, and that is where our story reaches its final turning point. The 45 laps at Monza will generate a very specific set of answers. Engineers will watch for the Macarena wing's transition smoothness at speeds above 300 kilometers per hour. They will measure floor downforce correlation against simulator predictions, looking for a variance smaller than 5%. The energy software must show consistent power deployment across 3 consecutive flying laps without battery temperature spikes. Hamilton and Leclerc will report not just lap times but feel the subtle cues that data cannot capture. What they learn in that limited window will trigger one of 3 paths for Miami. If the package validates, Ferrari arrives in Florida with a car that could close the gap to Mercedes by 0.3 per lap. A double podium there shrinks the championship deficit to a manageable 30 points. If results are mixed, the gap holds, and the pressure intensifies for Barcelona. If reliability issues emerge, Ferrari faces a 70-point hole with no easy way back. The sprint format magnifies every outcome. One practice session means no time for major fixes. The decision made in Maranello after Monza will either ignite a title fight or define its limits. This is where the story that began with a block test request reaches its turning point. 5 teams tried to slow Ferrari's progress. They succeeded in shrinking the testing window, but they could not stop the package from arriving in Miami. Hamilton chases an 8th title with a new team at its most critical juncture. Leclerc seeks the consistency that eluded him in 2025. In 45 laps at Monza, then 78 in Miami, Ferrari will learn whether courage or caution wins championships. And that answer will echo through every garage in Formula 1 for the rest of the season.